Hello, everybody. It's your boy, Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming here today. Let's talk about the peak of storytelling for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, shall we? Let's talk about Chapter 5 and why it's so beloved and how it became such a phenomenon around this game when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 released. Because in my opinion, it does a few things very well. It's perfectly paced, it has beautiful cinematography, beautiful voice acting that emphasizes the emotions that each character is feeling, and perfect musical accompaniment. A Step Away is perfectly placed and works so well with the scene and tells a story all of its own. And I've already made a video or two about the music of Xenoblade 3 and talked about why A Step Away is so good, so I won't really, repeat that here. I'll leave a comment down, I'll leave a link in the description down below for that. But I want to talk about Chapter 5 as a whole, because there's more to it that people kind of gloss over as to why it's so good. Because you start off with that prison section, and sure, some people may say that it kind of, goes on for a little long. Maybe it outstays its welcome, but that monotony, that repetition, sure, it may not translate well for some people, but for me, it was trying to translate how it felt for these characters who had to stay in that prison for so long, day in, day out, doing these menial tasks, being put in danger day after day, how they were treated. It was an interesting way to really convey that to me. And then you have the big bombastic prison escape section, where you're caught off guard by Mobius N and Mobius M. Ouroboros end up, willingly so, staying behind to let the other prisoners escape while they face off against M and N, with no guarantee of rescue. Heck, the way Noah acts and the way Noah tells it makes you believe he is fully willing and thinking that it's entirely possible or even probable that he and the rest of Ouroboros die that day. Now, of course, we're JRPG players, we're not actually expecting that to happen. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if? What if they all do die? What if the rest of the game has us taking up the role of the citizens of the city, having them become the new Mobius, and having them be the ones to finish the game? Now, that didn't end up transpiring, but thinking that even for a second they could do that was an interesting raise in stakes for me during this whole fight with M and N. And you have N absolutely Fortnite emoting on everybody, and just windmill dunking on literally everyone. You have Lance and Senna ready and about to sacrifice themselves by staying in the interlink for too long, which would cause them to implode, like the Mobius from before with that Mio Punch section, which was awesome. With the back of your mind, you're like, wait a minute, they already introduced this mechanic, it would come full circle. This, funnily enough, would wrap up Senna and Lance's story, where Senna wanted to make a name for herself and was unsure if she would always remain in Mio's shadows, while Lance failed to protect his friends before, especially with Euron. And in fact, Euron sacrificed himself to save Lance, so it would be kind of poetic for Lance to end up sacrificing himself for his friends. Oh no, wait a minute, this makes a little bit too much sense narratively. It's a little bit too poetic. Are they actually going to pull the trigger and kill these two main characters? And I think that one of Chapter 5 and the first half of Chapter 6, which I believe a lot of people kind of associate with Chapter 5, what this entire section does so well is constantly tricking you, constantly one-upping itself. It's a series of events where you think it can't get worse, but then it somehow does. You're like, how can it get worse than Lance and Senna dying? Oh wait, they live and now we're all in prison. Oh god, what's going to happen here? Why is Mio in a separate cell from everyone else? What's going on here? And it introduces these questions, implants them in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, slowly over time. And it keeps doing it. And it keeps doing it. And it keeps doing it. And in that prison cell, you see days pass, weeks pass, honestly, and you see the deterioration of the emotional state of Noah. And this is when we need to talk about what I wanted to get out of Chapter 5. What I wanted to get out of the game at this point in my initial playthrough of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I wanted more development for Noah specifically, and more characterization and personalization. And I also wanted the same for Senna as well. And I wanted to know how they were going to handle Mio's remaining time. And I wanted a good reason to hate or be opposed to the antagonist. I wanted a face for them is what I'm saying there. What Chapter 5 does is give you all 4 of those things. Everything I wanted out of the story at that point, everything I'm like, I need this to be able to really say that this game is amazing, the story is amazing, and I got all of them from this one chapter. Because the way this chunk of the story is able to weave numerous stories into one cohesive whole is honestly impressive. And it does so because what Chapter 5 gets so right from this point on is upending your expectations in traditional Xenoblade fashion. It's a core principle of Xenoblade storytelling. Lead you to believe one thing only to upend it, turn it on its head, and use that to tell a more compelling narrative. Because every time you think you may know where the story's going, it makes you believe, and it gives you reason to doubt that. Like with Mio dying. We have this entire bit in the prison cell of Noah slowly, mentally breaking, having who he believes is his Mio, but is actually M, who I'll just call M for the remainder of this little section. Finally call him Noah. And it was never really brought up that much before this point, right? But it's the way that the voice actor is able to convey the emotion there. The way the facial animations are expressed. It's clear, and it's shown to the player how much this meant to Noah. And that's what makes it all the harder. Because what Chapter 5 does so well, and if I had to point to one thing, is that it shows and tells. What a lot of people don't get with showing not telling is that they think that any scene where the characters are just talking is telling not showing. To me, a large chunk of showing is, are you able to convey the emotional impact, the emotional gravity of the scene in an effective and engaging way? Chapter 5 is able to do so. Why? Because of a step away, because of the cinematography, because of the lighting that is able to showcase a change in time. Sunrise and sunset are able to convey, hey, the end is drawing near. The moon in the sky is an ever-present reminder of the coming eclipse. How we're in the blackest night, and sure, there may be a dawn coming, but what kind of dawn awaits us? And then during the step away bit, you have Shania introduced back into the scene, taunting the main cast, and taunting Senna especially. So while you're furthering the narrative with Noah and Mio there, you're also developing Senna's character. And I think one of the reasons I like Noah so much as a protagonist is because of the scene in the prison cell. Because of those scenes where you see him desperately try and just punch and claw and scratch his way out of the prison cell, trying to muster up whatever hope he can, whatever strength he can still muster to break out and change that future, change that destiny that has been put in front of him, almost like an inescapable truth. Because sure, he is in a prison cell physically and can't escape, but emotionally he also feels like he's in a prison cell, or in a prison. He's unable to escape that prison of destiny. He doesn't want Mio to die, but every time he tries, every time he gets back up, reality and fate knocks him back down. And that's symbolized through two things. One, N just literally knocking him down, but also the cell itself and the iron bars. You can literally see, and what's one of the coolest features of Chapter 5 in my opinion, that is really talked about, at least from what I've seen. You see him literally bloody his knuckles, and you can see the scrapes and tears and cuts on his knuckles, just from his repeated attempts at punching the wall down. You see the rest of Otobo's, especially Lance, trying to talk him off that, to try and calm him down, emotionally. And they're able to for a time, but he just keeps emotionally boiling over. And they try to, and they end up trying to help him escape, but every time they fail. No matter how clever their new tactics are, no matter what they can do or what they can think of, they fail over and over and over again. And then we get that scene at Agnes Castle, on the Eclipse. We have the Queen Nia come out, that we believe to be a robot at this point, because Melia was as well. We believe that to be a fake Nia. And again, this is a good representation, a good microcosm of what Chapter 5 does so well for the narrative. Why it works so effectively, because you don't know what's going to happen. And there's two key points here, two very key moments in time that really drive this scene home, in my opinion. One is Riku telling Noah to draw Lucky 7, and that he wasn't able to, or what, at least wasn't willing to beforehand, draw the blade. He has to draw it from his true feelings, almost like a Monado, wink wink. It's not actually a Monado, I know that, but it's an interesting parallel there. So in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, okay, cool, yes, this is what I need. I need that classic plot armor JRPG goodness. I don't care. what kind of plot armor you need to give Noah and Mio for right now. Just do whatever you need to. Have the dragon from Shrek come in if you need. Hell, bring in Wreck-It Ralph if you need. Whatever you need to do to save Mio here, do it. Because, again, the eclipse, Mio's time is running out. They're in Agnes Castle, out-armed, outnumbered. It's as if fate itself is weighing down on you, leaning on your shoulders, like this thick fog or this haze that's suffocating you, choking you out. And then you get told by Riku that Lucky 7, hey, yeah, there we go, that's how we can save Mio. That's how Noah can save the day here. Okay, do it, do it, do it. Come on, Noah, do it already. Do it. He's not doing it. Why isn't he doing it? And it's a little bit frustrating, but in a good way, because you're emotionally invested in the scene. You want him to draw Lucky 7. You want him to keep fighting. But he's not able to. And then End brings over a freaking flute and says, here, play it. You're the one that's going to be sending her off. And you're like, oh no. Because, again, the realization dawns on you, saying, hey, Noah, we're running out of time here. Draw Lucky 7 already. Come on, time's up. This is not the final minute of an NFL game. Stop kneeling and running off the clock. Let's go here. We got a play to do. Come on. And then the song starts, and you're wondering, is Noah going to be the one to send Mio off? That's the second point. The fact he has the flute, and you're like, oh no, this is actually happening, is it? And then he tries to lunge forward a little bit and stopped immediately because the dude did not have a plan. He's acting emotionally, not rationally here, which is an understandable reaction. And again, the song starts to play. You see the motes of light start to evaporate off of Mio there, or M. And you're like, okay, Noah, anytime now. Anytime, Noah. And it doesn't happen. M fades away. And that visual of the clothes being left behind. Noah yelling out, Mio! Again, the voice acting for this scene is so expert. And how they're able to convey their emotions. Whoever rigged up Noah's face for these facial expressions, oh my god, was it effective in my opinion. Because what Chapter 5 did so well is play with your emotions and give you hope to take it away, to play on your expectations, to make you think one thing's gonna happen, then make you hope that thing's gonna happen, despite how cliched it may be. But then it doesn't. And you're like, oh, this is that type of game, huh? This is that type of story. Oh, you're gonna try and emotionally break me, aren't you, Monolith? Oh, you emotionally broke me, Monolith. And then N walks up to Noah's side, draws his blade, goes for the neck, fade to black. Not even fade, hard cut to black. End of chapter. Oh, that was clean. That chapter transition, freaking mwah, chef's kiss. Freaking thing of beauty, of perfection right there. Now, I do think it's fair to say that maybe this is a little bit too long of a cutscene. You could have had some gameplay section in the jail cell of us trying to find a way to escape. Maybe you could do something like that. But honestly, the cutscene was so well done, and I'm not the type of person to really bemoan or have issue with long cutscenes, so I didn't mind it. But if you did, I think that's completely valid. Leave a comment down below, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. And if you loved it, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter again. But Chapter 5 felt unpredictable. And it felt so unpredictable where you wished it was predictable at a point. Where you wished it was predictable that Noah's just going to draw Lucky 7, have his anime moment, go full shonen on them, save Mio, get out of there. You were hoping that would happen if you were at least me, right? But it didn't. And from that moment on, you knew nothing about what would happen with this game's story. And it set the rest of the game up so well. Like, I think the rest of the game has a couple of pacing issues, like big ones, but Chapter 5 was so well handled and so well executed, in my opinion, because of how it played on your emotional state, how it played on your expectations, how it made you theorize and predict certain things, hope that was going to happen, and then pull the rug out from under you, trip you up, and then spit on you and kick you down the stairs again, because it didn't let up, one thing after the other, and it will continue doing this throughout Chapter 6 as well, where every time you think it's over, every time you think you're going to have a little bit of a reprieve, no, it's going to kick you again while you're down. The moment you get back up, it will knock you down. And that's why I love Chapter 5 so much, because of how unpredictable it is, because of how emotionally invested it draws you in, and because it tackles the 4 major points that I wanted Chapter 5, or I wanted Xenoblade 3 to talk about and to cover at that moment. I got my development for Noah, I got more development for Senna as well, I want to know how they were going to handle Mio's remaining time, and they freaking did, even though that story would continue into Chapter 6. But again, very well executed, and I loved what they did there. And I wanted a good reason to hate or be opposed to the antagonist. I wanted a face to say, you're the villain of the game. I wanted a face to say, I want to take you down. And I got that with N. And then in Chapter 6, I would get that with Z. But it gave characterization to the main characters, it gave characterization and personality to the villains, and it handled plot points very effectively and set new ones up for the future. That is why Chapter 5 is so well beloved in my opinion, and how it's so well executed. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.